So let's have a quick review of the structure of the task 1 writing, right? So first you need to write a sentence that introduces the summary, okay? And remember to use your own word as far as possible, but don't go too far to the point the meaning diverges. For the body, you need to organize into paragraphs that cover different time periods on the graph. The overview shows the overall picture of the trend, so it can be put in the introduction or at the end to form the final paragraph, okay? As long as it's there, you get the point. Again, the overview can be put in the introduction or at the end as the final paragraph. So here is the sample answer to the graph of the population growth we already discussed, right? So let's have a look at the sample answer here. In 30 seconds, I want you to scan this sample answer and find the words that describe the trends for me, okay? So for example, go up, go down. All right, so what do we have? A rise, right? Has increased, a verb. Will increase, a verb. Is likely to fall slightly, okay? It's a verb. But here you can say in the future, we use is likely to, all right? Or it will increase. So here we can diversify our ways of describing the future. Not just will, boringly, right? Okay. Will probably increase. So you see, right? And which a figure. And also we can use the word like is going to experience steady growth, okay? Is going to, will probably, is likely to. So different ways of describing the future, right? Overtake and will pick in. All right, now let's study the sample answer from a different angle, right? Earlier we only studied the language of trend, right? But now we look at them, you know, like as an overall picture. Let's see with the introduction, right? You can see like here, the introduction says how the populations of India and China have changed since 2000 and how they will change in the future. Okay, so introduction basically paraphrase the information in the chart, which is the population growth, but here how they have changed since 2000 and how they will change in the future, separate into different timelines. And then for the body, as you can see here, the body is separated, okay, divided into two parts. All right, so the first part, the red paragraph right here, describe the trends that goes from 2000 up to the present, right? And then the paragraph in purple describe the trend in the future, the changes in the future. So for the overview here, the green paragraph right here, we can see we have only two sentences, right? The sample answer only give two sentences to describe the overall trend of the two countries. The first is about the steady growth of India's population, and then it will overtake China. That's it for the India. And then on the other hand, China's population will peak in 2030 before falling. So that's another sentence. Okay. So in order to show the contrast of the difference in the two trends they use on the other hand. Okay. And you notice here for the overview, no figures included, no figures reported here. Just the pure overall trend, okay? All right, so here's we're looking at the useful language that can be used to describe the trends, right? Instead of using only increase and then it increase, okay, or decrease boringly, okay? You have a range of vocabulary and a range of structures right here, okay? For example, instead of just saying the number increase from A to B, right? We could say the number experienced an increase. If it increased from 10 to 20, you can say it increased twofold, okay? And at the last bullet point, if it increased from 20 to 60, you can say it increased threefold, right? Different ways of saying. Okay, and besides increase and decrease, we have other types of trend like fluctuate. Okay, the numbers go up and down. If it doesn't changes, right, you can use the words like remain stable or remain steady. Okay, so to dip means to fall slightly for a short period of time. Just dip, short period of time. And to peak means to reach the highest point. All right, normally you see like the top of the mountain, okay, or the highest point throughout the period. To peak, or to hit a peak, or to reach a peak. We just discussed the useful language to describe the trends, and we're looking at a useful language to describe the charts in general, right? So in order to start your answer, to write the introduction, all right, you can use different ways. So the graph shows, or the graph gives information about, or the graph provides information about something, or the graph indicates something. And in order to link ideas or introduce new sentences, you can use in addition, also, all right? So you use it to introduce or to link the new ideas to the old ideas. And in order to compare and show the contrast, here you can use the phrases you can see on the right box, the box on the right here. Okay, if it's similar, if one line shows this increased trend and the other line also shows the increased trend, you can compare it using similarly, right? For example, line A increased. Similarly, line B also increased to a specific number. Or if they are of opposite trend, for example, line A increase and line B decrease, you can use different ways. So here, for example, while line A increase, line B decrease, or although it increases, it decreases, or line A increases, on the other hand, line B increases, or line A increases, in contrast or in comparison, line B decreases. Or unlike line A, which shows an increase, line B decreases. All right. So to introduce the overview, you can use different words or phrases. Overall, it shows an overall trend. Thus, it shows an overall increasing trend. Clearly, it shows an overall upward trend. So different ways for different writings. And here's the final tips for the task 1 writing. So most importantly, make sure you fully understand the data. It's better to spend a couple of minutes to look at the task, at the charts, and make sure you understand the figures, okay, what it shows. And if it's a table, you should look at the headings. Or if it's a graph or a chart, you look at the axis, the vertical axis or the horizontal axis, okay? And the labels or any key. So basically, you should be able to understand any point or any figure in the chart or graph, okay? So before you start the actual writing work, you just look at a random number and try to figure out what it means or what it shows, right? Okay, that's what I normally do, okay? And ask my students to do, okay? I just point at a random number and have him or her tell me what it means. Point number 2, remember to include the key points. Decide on at least 3 key points, right? And normally the key points are the starting figures and the ending figures in the chart. And also the greatest number, the lowest number, or the figures when many lines meet, okay? The same figures that the lines have. Point number 3, you have to include your data. Okay, many students, when they write their summary, they describe, is the greatest number, is the highest, but then they fail to include the figure, the data to support the idea. Okay, so if you write the information without the supporting data, you will lose some points or some marks. Okay, remember to use the data or the details, the number to illustrate your key points. For example, referring back to the task 1, the writing about the population growth of China and India, right? In 2030, the two countries have the same population figure, but then you need to include the number as well. Okay. For example, the two countries have the same population of 1.5 billion people. Okay, so 1.5 billion is the data. And the final point, always remember to include an overview of the information. All right, so after the analysis and the key features, so it's always best to give a simpler picture of what you already said by showing the overall trend. And normally the overview can go at the end of the answer, okay? Starting with overall or clearly, but it doesn't have to be at the end, right? Sometimes it can be right after the introduction. So as long as it's there, you get the credit for it, all right? If it's not there, you lose some marks, remember. All right, so those are the tips on how to improve your task 1 writing, okay? So practice makes perfect.
VUS, your English, your future.